and let us all do we can to build a better future.
I find this segment to be interesting because here you see BSDNC not once, but twice call out Democratic Representative Dean Phillips. Now, Dean Phillips is interesting in my book as a U.S. representative in the Democratic Party, because he's saying something that I think I can agree with, but no, I'm not going to vote Democrat because, again, if you run a Democratic primary, the game is rigged from the start, baby. Marianne Williamson, RFK Jr. If you ran as independents, I would respect you more. That's true. I would. But you're running in a Democratic primary. Not going to happen. But Dean Phillips is saying, hey, there should be more Democrats to challenge Joe Biden, because I think Representative Dean Phillips, is saying something that we all see. Joe Biden is suffering from dementia and Alzheimer's. And yes, I'm giving a huge shout out to Jimmy Dore. We saw his show at the Comedy Club at Zany's last night. It was a great show. Awesome. Really enjoyed every single minute of it. But let's face it, the whole audience, who was a diverse group of people. You hear that, AOC? You hear that, AOC? Diverse group of people across the political spectrum. Everyone agrees. It's like, yeah, Trump is suffering from dementia and Alzheimer's. I've seen what happens to loved ones when they go through it. Biden exhibits all the signs. And Dean Phillips is saying, hey, we need to challenge Joe Biden. Have a robust primary, or either that. Maybe Joe Biden should just step aside. But BSDNC decides to go 1984. So first, I want to bring up good old friend of the show, friend to all leftists, Simone Sanders decides to hit that home run homer as she tries to get that 1984 Ministry of Truth Award, because apparently she's saying, I just don't think there's a legitimate appetite for another Democratic candidate. There is no war in Ba Sing Se. Let's pull up this video. Shout out to Case Study QB. I don't know how you sit through corporate media, buddy, but you're made out of stronger stuff than I am.
Inside the House. Which House? The House of Representatives. A moderate congressman from Minnesota is calling on his fellow Democrats to primary President Biden, while Representative Dean Phillips hasn't decided if he will challenge President Biden in 2024. He's encouraging others to, quote unquote, jump in to the race. Here is what Congressman Phillips told my colleague Chuck Todd this morning on Meet the Press.
People want to turn the page. I think that's fair to say. As a Democrat, I adore Joe Biden. He saved this country.
Dean. Stop. How? How did he save the country? The ship is already sinking. Biden ain't doing anything else but putting in a few more holes in the ship.
He can cement his legacy. My real call to action right now is not about me. The call to action is to ask the president to pass the torch. There is an extraordinary bench of people ready to go, proximate,
who would you like to see in this race?
I would like to see a moderate governor, hopefully from the heartland, from one.
A moderate, pragmatic governor. See, again, Dean Phillips, so close yet so far. You just want to see some sort of moderate centrist. Well, shoot, you're calling for it, buddy. Why don't you step up? Boot up or suit up or shut up.
One of the 4 states that Democrats will need. So this is the time to meet the moment. And I'm doing something that I know it's unpopular as a Democrat, but I'm speaking truth. That's my job, my duty.
Everybody wants somebody different than Joe Biden. They see that he's old.
I met the congressman this morning. He's a lovely man, and yet speaking truth.
He's a lovely man, but he's an enemy of the state. If you find him, kick him in the nuts.
It's part of his job, but it's also part of mine. So here's how I see it. I just don't think there's a legitimate appetite for another Democratic candidate. Look at the polls. A recent New York Times Siena poll actually shows that President Biden's reelection bid is gaining support among Democrats. And this is not an active primary, folks. President Biden is going to be the Democratic nominee for president. Other Democrats who have declared themselves candidates in the 2024 presidential primary, I'm talking about Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and Marianne Williamson, well, they trail President Biden by more than 50 points in that same poll.
See, isn't it going to be great? It's a big nightmare. Old man Biden versus good old Donald Trump. 2 old men fighting over a cold bowl of soup. That cold bowl of soup is America. You think you have a choice? And by the way, hey, Democrats, wait to show how much of an approval you are to authoritarianism. Honey, we gotta be quiet and follow orders. Oh, that turns me on all the time, sweetheart. Jesus Christ, man. People, my fellow Americans, what happened to your soul? What happened to your backbone? Vote blue no matter who. The fact that you are all in line with Joe Biden tells me I don't want to associate with you people. And before anyone types in the comment section below, what do you mean, you people? I mean, you people. Vote blue no matter who.
Plucking a moderate governor from a heartland state to run for president might sound like a solid strategy, but at this point in this particular election, doing so without an exploratory committee, a national level campaign apparatus, a plan to get...
It's just too hard. Don't do it. Don't think for yourself. Just shut up and drink the neoliberal soup. Shut up and follow orders. Americans, stop asking questions. Your house is on fire. We just turned up the heat. Just pour yourself a cool glass of water.
Get on the ballot in the primary states, or even an appetite from the people, is just simply unrealistic. Hearing the congressman comments today, I just really had to wonder, why weren't these concerns addressed before President Biden announced his reelection campaign?
Oh my God! In real time! People have been addressing these concerns before RFK Jr. or Marianne Williams would decide to fart their ways into the Democratic primary. You gotta make that face. Everybody's talking about it. Biden's age, his health. There's numerous articles and videos about how Joe Biden might not be all there and how it's a danger for 2024. People were talking about it. That's real time. Hey, in case you don't believe me, again, 1984, George Orwell. Thanks for giving us the proper vision of the future and what we're going to prepare for. Again,
hype from the people is just simply unrealistic. Hearing the congressman comments today, I just really had to wonder, why weren't these concerns addressed before President Biden announced his reelection campaign?
Yeah. Why wasn't it concerned? Why wasn't it brought up? Be quiet and follow orders. Be quiet. Shut up. So many liars. But hey, if you want to see lying liars who like to lie, give it up for a good old Chuck Todd, who I think right now is probably the world heavyweight champion for the Ministry of Truth Award. Here, let's pull this up. Again, case study QB. I don't know how you sit through this.
President Biden currently faces just two minor Democratic challengers. Robert Kennedy Jr., he has a famous name, but he's a lawyer and a vaccine skeptic whose candidacy has been boosted by people like Steve Bannon and financed in part by MAGA donors, believe it or not. Then there's Marianne.
Oh, yes, because, hey, it wasn't questionable when the Democratic, the DCCC, was giving donations to MAGA Republicans, right, Chuck Todd? Remember that? Do you remember that? When Democratic politicians, lawmakers, DNC institutions were donating to diehard Trump supporters and Trump politicians? Remember that in 2022? That was a little bit of a big issue. So why should it come as no surprise that, I don't know, maybe Republicans would donate to Democratic politicians, eh? Come on, man. Folks, they're trying to pull the wool over your eyes, and this is what's deemed as news for the American people.
Williamson, you may remember her from 2020. She's a self-help author and was on the debate stage briefly in 2020. Academic Cornel West is vying for the Green Party nomination. It could pull votes from the left. And West Virginia Democratic Senator Joe Manchin is flirting with an independent run and may leave the party to do that. And now Minnesota Congressman Dean Phillips is calling for a more competitive Democratic primary, saying voters don't want a coronation, they want a competition. Phillips, who is in his third term representing suburban Minneapolis, let me tell you a little bit about him. He lost his father in Vietnam. After business school at the University of Minnesota, Mr. Phillips joined the family business, Phillips Distilling. He went on to help build Talenti Gelato into a top-selling gelato brand and also opened Penny's Coffee, a small business in the Twin Cities. And he is, like I said...
Okay, so again, Representative Dean Phillips isn't this big old maverick, but he is saying the truth. Like, hey, look, we should have another choice, but he's going for the centrist, pragmatic choice of we should have somebody else, because he's basically saying, hey, look, Biden's a little bit old, and Trump could probably trounce him and push him around. But again, corporate media saying we don't have time to find somebody else, because you want to know why? Because the establishment knows that they could, if Biden still remains somewhat viable, all they have to do is just push him along, guide him along the stage, and he's biddable. They could tell him what to do. He'll be more obedient than even George Bush Jr. And if Kamala is in the White House, well, Kamala's going to be cackling and laughing because she's nervous, not because she's happy, because she doesn't want to upset her corporate donors. I mean owners. I mean donors.
In his third term, Phillips has denounced, by the way, the no labels attempt to fill a third-party ticket, but he has called for serious Democratic primary challengers to President Biden. And last week, he met with Democratic donors in New York about the race, potentially entering it himself if no one else does. Congressman Phillips, welcome to the press.
Good to be with you.
If I sum this up right, you are not interested in being a candidate for president technically yourself right now, or are you?
That's a fair statement.
Okay.
What I'm technically and legitimately doing is
also what he's kind of maybe highlighting is, hey, establishment, old man Biden's old and looks like a fool, but I could follow orders. I could follow orders. Again, I don't know where his heart is in the game, but if he's saying that he wants to run for president, maybe he's trying to say, I won't be in trouble. I'll do good. You don't have to worry about me.
representing. I'm a representative, and I'm representing what I believe to be the majority of the country that wants to turn the page. Tired of the meanness and the fear-mongering of Donald Trump. Would like to see Joe Biden, a wonderful and remarkable man, pass the torch, cement this extraordinary legacy.
You don't want him to run for re-election.
I believe what's in the best interest of the country. And by the way, this is not how everybody thinks, but I do believe a majority wants to move on. I hear from way too many people. Now, the news was that I was meeting with donors. The fact is I listen to normal Americans every day and my own feelings. And
Is
the
this
fact
all about
is,
age?
No, this is about how people feel. By the way, it's not about what's real all the time. It's about how people feel. People want to turn the page. I think that's fair to say. As a Democrat, I adore Joe Biden. He saved this country.
Ugh. Got a little something right there by the corner of your mouth. You got to clean up a little bit. And also you got some brown stuff on your nose.
He can cement his legacy. My real call to action right now is not about me. The call to action is to ask the president to pass the torch. There is an extraordinary bench of people ready to go, proximate,
Who would you like to see in this
position.
race?
I would like to see a moderate governor, hopefully from the heartland, from one of the 4 states that Democrats will need,
So let's
particularly.
see, Gretchen Whitmer. You'd like to see her, or is it Tim Walz, your home state governor, Tony Evers? Help me out here.
You just said a few names I think would be great. Josh Shapiro. There are a number of people. J.B. Pritzker. Some people have asked me.
Had to mention my home state. God damn it. You know, in 2018, when he faced off against Bruce Rauner, it was at the time the most expensive governor's race in U.S. history. One billionaire versus another. And just so y'all know, like, Pritzker's been involved in a lot of politics here in Chicago. Like, a lot of things are named after them. Oh, Dean Phillips. You know, again, you start off on a high note and then low note.
That I not use their names because of this institutional fear that it might impact you down the road. This is the time to meet the moment. And I'm doing something that I know it's unpopular.
And yes, he's walking on eggshells. I want to tell the outside Steeler fan says it's so annoying how he's walking on eggshells in this video. Yeah, absolutely. And hey, I think we got ourselves a Vote Blue No Matter Who troll who's saying Blue Wave 2024. Yeah, Blue Wave. Blue wave of glass cleaner as we drown in it, thinking that it's a big wave of Gatorade.
Right. Democrat, but I'm speaking truth. That's my job. My duty is to the people I represent, but also to represent the mass majority. And I want to say this about Democrats. It's really important. Joe Biden right now is down 7 points in the 4 swing states that will decide the next election. He has historically low approval numbers, Chuck. There are about 55% of Democrats would like to see an alternative. I can keep going down the list.
No,
the fact of the matter is
everything you're saying, we've all
representing.
heard in
Right.
private as well. Why do you think it's all?
Wait, how'd you hear it in private? Chuck Todd, do you have doubts about Biden? Uh-oh. You better be careful, man, or you might find a red dot somewhere on your body or on your head. And that's the only warning you're going to get. The next time, there is no next time.
Private. Why do you think this hand wringing is only really gone public through you?
It's very simple. People are focused on self-preservation and not principle. There is no political reward in the United States right now for simply speaking the truth. Look at what happened to my Republican colleagues who dared do the right thing and support the Constitution.
Hey, a bunch of nerds support the Constitution. No, they don't. These politicians don't care about the Constitution. They don't. They only care about enriching themselves. The only reason why Republican lawmakers turned against Trump is because Trump would occasionally tell the truth. Best case example, Trump, why are we in Syria? Oh, we're there for the oil. I mean, collectively, you heard all of Washington, D.C. just take one big dump. He didn't say we were there for freedom. He didn't say we were there to rebuild the country. He didn't say we were there for humanitarian rights or to preserve freedom and liberty. No, no, no. He said the quiet part loud. We're there for the oil. I could hear everyone from Washington, D.C. bipartisanship in one mighty voice. What are you doing?
Support the Constitution, the only thing to which we're duty bound. Look at what happened to them. It is not good to get out of line. It's not good to raise your hand, stand up, shout a little bit.
It's never good. Hey, why don't you bring up Bernie Sanders? Even though Bernie Sanders is a cuck. I'm a cuck, everyone. I'm Bernie Sanders. I'm a cuck. The blue Democrats are the best thing ever. You gonna talk about that? What about all the progressives, huh? You gonna bring up that? No, probably not.
At a time we need it more than ever, and I'm afraid that that's the culture in this institution here in Washington, D.C.
And I saw you believe the Hunter Biden news actually reinforces this even more, don't you?
I don't think the president is corrupt. I think the investigation will show that. But
no, he doesn't think the president is corrupt. Hey, let's have democracy in the chat. Let's be troublemakers. Type 1 if you think Representative Dean Phillips is speaking from his soul, from his heart, and he cares about our republic, about the American people, about the Constitution. I type 2, no, man, this is a charlatan who's trying to advance his political career. All right. And he doesn't care. He's saying some things in theory. Theory? That sounds good, but no, all in all, he's another charlatan. I wonder how many 2s we get in the chat.
And this is the important part. It's the image. It's what the news will do. We know what era we live in partisanship. It is the attachment to the president. Most people aren't watching Meet the Press every weekend.
Wouldn't this happen to any Democratic nominee?
It probably will, and it saddens me. And these are the people I'm trying to represent right now, Chuck. The people who are sick and tired of this nonsense. We have a duopoly. We have a political industrial complex.
Hey, quit stealing my words. Quit stealing my... Is Dean Phillips a secret admirer of Hard Lens Media? I don't know.
That if they agree on anything, it's the status quo. And by the way, now I have trouble with Donald Trump. I do not have trouble.
Oh, hey, calling me shocked. A Democrat that doesn't like Trump. Oh, my goodness. Hold on. Wait. Here, this is acting. What? A Democrat that doesn't like Trump? Oh, my God.
Trouble with Trumpers who are trying to find somebody to change the system. The hardware is fine. The software is a problem. The people with whom we're populating the system, and I understand the need for transparency. We need to restore faith in government. We should do that in a thoughtful, meaningful, legitimate, and bipartisan manner, and it can be done. We need leaders in the next generation to do so, and I'm just simply expressing that point of view that I think is shared by a majority of Americans.
What can President Biden do to reassure you he is up to it?
Hey, what can President Biden do? Biden, how old are you? Biden, who is the current... Biden, how old are you? How old am I, Jack? Well, I'm pretty old. I remember the record player. Biden, who's the current president of the United States? President Gerald Ford. Biden, what is your policy on Russia? The Soviet Union is a threat to Eastern Europe. And I'm going to tell him that wall needs to go, Jack. Take it down. Build an ice cream shop, man. Okay, I'm being horrible here, but whatever.
a second term.
I'm not saying he's not up to a second term. What I'm saying is look at the data. I listen. My job is to listen. I do it every single day back in Minnesota.
Right. Can he
all around
change the
country.
data?
That's the challenge. I come from the marketing world. You just explain.
And by the way, chat, you're being brutal. You're being brutal to Representative Dean Phillips, but I love you anyways.
In my background, sometimes you got a product that is extraordinary, meets the moment, you think is going to be the next big thing, and it just doesn't happen. And in business, you got to recognize it because the data speaks the truth.
So what he's saying is old man Biden is not a good product anymore. The old man Biden action figure ain't selling off the shelves as it could. You need a new action figure. The Biden product is old and stale, and it smells funny.
The data is speaking the truth right now. And if nobody's willing to talk about it before it's too late, that's the key.
The case against what you're talking about is basically the history of our lifetimes, okay? You go back, the last 4 sitting presidents who had serious primary challengers, that party lost the White House. But Chuck, LBJ, we can go back to LBJ, but also Gerald Ford, Jimmy Carter, George H.W. Bush.
But why were they primaried? Because people recognized they were weakened. The country was ready to turn the page. Now we could have an hour debate on this subject. I understand that. I don't want to be. I ran for Congress in 2016. After the 2016 election, I woke up that next morning. My teenage daughters were in tears. I promised them I would do something. I'm not going to be quiet.
Again, was Trump. My God, Trump. I mean, he lives rent-free in so many people's heads. Not only does he own a vast amount of property, and of course he puts his name on it, but the minds that he lives in. He's like their overall boogeyman. Hey, it's me, Trump. I'm living rent-free in your head. This head here is empty. There's nothing really in here. You're weak. You should be voting for me. I live rent-free everywhere.
Quiet now, 5 years later, when the same trauma could be afflicting the country if Donald Trump is reelected. So I will do nothing to ensure that Donald Trump is reelected. But Chuck, it's really important that people know this. I'm doing just the opposite. And if people aren't willing right now to have that conversation, to have the discussion, and most importantly, to present some alternatives, how in the world are we going to look at these numbers and say everything's okay? But hopes and dreams and prayers, I love them. They don't solve gun violence. They don't give health insurance to Americans, right? And they sure as heck won't change the numbers that I'm seeing right now.
Have you talked to Joe Manchin? You want him to run in a Democratic primary instead of as an independent for no labels?
Don't you find it funny that, again, they keep on bringing up Joe Manchin?
I want anybody who wants to run, Joe Manchin, Cornel West, any of the government.
Hey, everybody, run the Democratic primary. The game is rigged from the start, and only establishment picks who they want.
You want him in the primary?
In the primary. That's why we have primaries, because that doesn't undermine the likelihood of returning, in this case, a Democrat to the White House. So that is the key. Enter the primary, my friends. Everybody who is on the bench, meet the moment. Don't wait 5 years. We need you now.
When are you going to make a decision? You're waiting for somebody who you said with
I'm not
bigger
waiting.
name to come in. How long are you going to wait?
Waiting is like hopes and prayers. I'm actively inviting, encouraging.
Then boot up and suit up. Crap or get off the pot. God damn it, man. Talk about a know-nothing wonder. It's either you do it or you don't. Either you fight and be consistent or you don't. Stop wasting my time. Stop wasting my time. So you see, again, these politicians, okay, everybody knows that Biden's suffering from Alzheimer's or dementia, that he's old, okay? He will be the oldest sitting president in U.S. history. So that means if he ascends to the White House, he's going to have some health issues. Already, look, not only has he had numerous accidents, not only has he stuttered and stammered on stage, not only has he acted confused and old and dismissive, but I mean, the man's has a CPAP machine that helps him breathe. For those who don't know, a CPAP machine puts in oxygen in your body because either you're snoring and your brain isn't getting enough oxygen and you're literally dying in your sleep. That's how old Biden is. So in other words, he needs a machine to put enough oxygen in his body when he's sleeping. Because if you don't have that machine, it's going to really mess you up. It'll cause heart problems, cause cognitive decline. Again, Democrats, this is your champion. This is your dog. This is your fighter. It's pretty pathetic to see where many of you have really turned to and what you want out of your representatives, who will represent you in Congress, in the Senate, or is it who you want to run for president of the United States? I mean, at this point, there's nothing you can do that can really show me that you're serious. And so even when there are contenders in the race, the Democrats have made it abundantly clear that they want to rig the system to favor them. And so what is the solution? Well, it's very simple. In fact, it's right there in front of all of you. Don't vote Democrat. Don't vote Republican. Vote independent. Vote third party.